guys, how is everyone doing today? So I am back with another ghost, haunted, creepy, true crime type of story today. So if you are new here and you are into that sort of vibe and you like makeup, then hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to the Spooky Fam. If you're not new here, hi, welcome back. As you know, I started moving my Ghost and Glam videos to Friday, so I'm trying really hard to stick to that schedule. So I'm not going to waste too much time doing a big intro because you guys know the drill here, so let's just go ahead and jump right into the story. Okay, so today's story, it's a little bit weird. We're talking about a man named Jerry Brudos. Jerry was born January 31st, 1939 in Webster, South Dakota. He was the younger of his siblings and he didn't really have the best upbringing really. His mother, she was really disappointed because she didn't want another boy. So to take her anger out, she would mentally and physically abuse Jerry growing up. She was pissed. She wanted a girl. His family was also said to move around a lot. They would constantly pack up and leave. But then they finally settled in Salem, Oregon. And this is when Jerry kind of became a little bit different. I'll say he was different. And what I mean by different is he had a fetish. Now, just to put this out here, I'm not knocking anyone's fetishes. Whatever you guys want to do, I don't care. Whatever. But his happened to be feet and shoes. He was really into it. And he started showing interest in feet and shoes at a really young age. He was about 5 years old. And it started when he stole a pair of high heel shoes from an old junkyard. He also tried to steal high heel shoes from one of his teachers in elementary school. That didn't work out so well though. It didn't really say what happened after he tried to steal the shoes, but his fetish just kind of started growing a little bit out of control. So it would go from having a fetish for heels, which he always had, and then he started to develop a fetish for female underwear. And what's weird is he would run around the neighborhood claiming that he would steal everyone's underwear. And keep in mind, he was just a kid when this was happening. He was only 5 years old, and he's running around his neighborhood telling all the female neighbors, I'm gonna steal your shit.
I'm gonna steal all your stuff.
So his parents decide, you know what, he might need some mental help, some psychiatric help. So by the time he was a teenager, he was constantly in and out of psychotherapy and psychiatric hospitals, but nothing ever really seemed to work for him. His fetish just grew more and more intense. As a teenager, he started to stalk local women or just people around his neighborhood, and he would tackle them down and start to choke them, and then he would run away with their freaking shoes. He would choke them unconscious, so they really couldn't put up a fight. And this guy was he was a pretty big dude, not gonna lie. When he was only 17 years old, he ended up kidnapping a younger woman and just beating the living crap out of her. And he even threatened to stab her if she wouldn't go along with his sexual demands. I get people have fetishes, but is it really worth it to beat people up over? I don't get it. So thankfully, the woman that he beat so badly ended up reporting him. After he was arrested, he was taken to a psychiatric ward in the Oregon State Hospital where he would stay for 9 months. And his counselors were able to get out of him where his hatred stemmed from. It stemmed from his mother. She hated him so bad because he wasn't a girl. So he just had all this built up rage against her, and he was just taking it out on these poor innocent women and jacking their freaking shoes. When he was in the psychiatric ward, they did a psychiatric evaluation on him, and he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. But while he was in the hospital, he seemed to be doing somewhat okay. They kind of have you medicated in there, and you go through a lot of therapy. So he seemed to be doing a little bit better. He even was able to graduate high school in 1957. And after high school, he became an electronics technician. So he was doing fairly well for himself. But obviously, that of course did not last long. No. In 1961, when Jerry was 22 years old, he ended up marrying a 17-year-old girl. Gross. Her name was Darcy, and they ended up having 2 children of their own. And then around this time, shortly after they got married, Darcy started to notice that he was kind of a little bit freaking weird, okay? So he made her walk around the house just completely butt naked wearing nothing but high heels to do housework. And while she was doing this, he was taking pictures of her. Like, ugh. Okay, whatever. Do what you want behind closed doors, but that's a little much. And it wasn't like he was asking her to do this. It wasn't like, hey, babe, let's have like a fun little role-playing night. Let's do some fun, kinky shit. No, it was like he was demanding this of her. Like he forced her to do this. I would have been gone a long time ago. So around the same time that he got married and was doing all this like weird crap with his wife, he would also start to complain of getting these just really, really bad migraines, and then he would complain that he would just have like random blackout spells. And the only way to relieve his symptoms was to go out at night, okay, not creeping and crawling, night on the town. He would be on the prowl, stealing women's shoes and their lace underwear. So he was like breaking into people's houses or walking up to random women that he would see walking in the middle of the night, and he would attack them and steal their shoes. And this was the only way that he could relieve his migraine symptoms. What a weirdo. So on top of like everything that he's doing and everything he's going through, he also went through a transgender period, which whatever, I don't care. But the thing is that he would use this as an escape mechanism as to why he was stealing women's shoes. He would start to claim that, oh, I want to be a woman, that's why I'm doing it. Okay, whatever, but why do you have to attack women? Like, if you're transgender, just come out as transgender. Why do you have to attack women to be transgender, right? His poor wife. I can only imagine, like, what she's going through during this time. I don't know why I was using that brush. Like, I don't know if she knew the extent to where he would go out and, like, attack women. I don't know if she knew about that part of his life. I couldn't really find much about it, but I can only imagine. So I know what you're probably thinking. Where did he keep all of these shoes and undergarments and everything like that? How did he hide it from his wife? Well, he would keep them in the garage. His wife was not allowed to go into the garage at any time unless she announced that she was going to come in on the intercom. He installed an intercom on the freaking door. So that way if his wife was like, hey honey, like, what do you want for dinner? She had to ask him on the intercom. She wasn't allowed in the garage. So over time, attacking women and stealing their shoes and just beating them wasn't enough for old Jerry over here. No, he needed more. He needed to feel more thrill. Between 1968 and 1969, Jerry bludgeoned and strangled 4 young women and attempted to attack 2 other women. One of his victims was a woman named Linda Slauson. She was only 19 years old and she was a door-to-door encyclopedia saleswoman. And one day she's strolling the neighborhood and she just so happens to knock on Jerry's freaking door. So of course, Jerry tries to pretend that he's interested in encyclopedias. Yeah, I'm interested. I totally want an encyclopedia. Come on in, I'll pour us a drink. We'll have a little chit chat. So, of course, she had to do it because it's her job. He somehow was able to, like, lure her down into his basement. I don't know how he did that. I would not go down to a basement with anybody. I don't care who you are. Unless I know you, like, on a good level, I'm not going down to your basement. But anyways, it's not about me. It's about Linda. So Linda goes down to the basement with him, and Jerry's mother and his children were in the house during this time. He ends up knocking her out with a wooden plank just straight across her head, and then he strangles her to death. This guy just gets weirder and weirder, okay? It's, ugh. So he ends up dressing her in different women's clothing, different shoes that he had ended up stealing, and he would pose her body in like really provocative poses, and he would take pictures of her. But not only that, he had to take it a step further, okay? He had to. He cut off her left foot with a hacksaw. He kept it in like a freezer, probably like a deep freezer. And then he used it to model different shoes that he had stolen. Like he would perch it up on his little table with a freaking shoe on it. And then when he was done, he took her body and he threw it into the Willamette River. Like, are you freaking kidding me? This guy's a total freak. Another one of his victims was an 18-year-old girl named Karen Sprinker. He abducted her at gunpoint in the parking lot of a department store. He was dressed in women's clothes during the attack, and he brought her back to his basement, and he made her wear like a whole bunch of different women's clothes yet again. and would pose her and take pictures of her. She was still fully aware of her surroundings while she was being photographed. He also sexually assaulted her, and then he strangled her too by hanging her from a freaking pulley. So if you thought like all of his little fetishes were weird, he also got into another one, and that would be necrophilia. He ended up violating Karen's body after he had murdered her and kept her body for several days. He also cut off her breast to make plastic molds. This dude is a total psycho. He eventually would tie her body to a 6-cylinder car engine with nylon cord and then throw her body into the Willamette River along with the last victim. Oh, but it doesn't stop there. He kept going. Another victim, Jan Whitney, she was 23 years old and she was a motorist whose car broke down on the highway. And it just so happened that same day, Jerry was driving down the highway and he pulled over and he stopped and he offered to take her back to his house where she could call a tow truck. Again, don't get in the freaking car with people you don't know. So Jerry didn't even wait till they got home to do his deed to her. He ended up strangling her while they were still in the freaking car. And then when they got home, this is when he would hang her body from the pulley like he did the other victim. He had her hanging there for several days, and of course he would dress her up in undergarments and pose her and then take more pictures of her. He also violated her freaking body. This dude. So like the last victim, he ended up cutting off her breast, but this time he only cut off one, and then he made a resin mold out of it and he used it as a freaking paperweight. Ugh, this dude is disgusting. And then when he was done and he was satisfied, he threw her body into the river like the other victims. And then this time he took Karen's foot and threw it into the river because it had started to rot. So he couldn't keep it anymore. On April 21st and April 22nd, he actually attempted to abduct 2 other women, but somehow they were able to get free, thank God. But on April 23rd, he was successful in abducting another woman. Her name was Linda Sally. She was just 22 years old. He abducted her from a shopping mall parking lot, and of course he brought her back to his garage where he sexually abused her and strangled her to death and then kept her body around to do whatever he wanted with. So with Linda's body, he was going to cut off one of her breasts too, but he said that they were too pink for his liking, so he decided not to. So instead what he did, and this is just, if this is not psychotic, I don't know what is, okay? Instead, he drove an electrical current through the body in order to make it jump. What? It didn't work, so he got pissed off and he was done with her body, and then he ended up throwing her into the river just like everyone else. So he used the same nylon cord with everyone's body, and he didn't really think that through, okay, because it came to bite him in the ass. In May of 1969, a fisherman ended up finding all the bodies because they had like washed up on another river close to where Jerry was throwing the other bodies into. It was close to a university, so when police were investigating and they were questioning people, they went to the campus to see if there was any like strange men that were lurking around or if they just noticed anything out of the ordinary. One student actually came forward and said that Jerry kept calling her, asking her out on dates, and she kept refusing, but he was like super persistent, and luckily she never went on a date with him, but she did report it to police. I don't know if the police had called Jerry or if they had the student call Jerry and like, hey, let's meet up or whatever. But either way, he ended up giving police a false address so they couldn't find him. But eventually the police found out where he lived, and then they discovered his entire garage and basement full of all of his crap. They found copper wire that was determined to be cut by the same tool that was cut from the nylon cords they found the bodies tied to, and they were able to make an official arrest on Jerry, and he gave them a full confession. On June 28th, 1969, Jerry confessed to 3 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 3 consecutive terms of life in prison. He also confessed to Linda's murder, the one who he cut the foot off of, but he was neither tried nor convicted for it because he didn't end up keeping any of the photographs like he did with the other cases, so there wasn't really anything to like pinpoint him to the case. I don't really understand that. Like, obviously he did it. I mean, come on. While he was incarcerated, he also like had a subscription to magazines that were just filled with like women's clothing and women's shoes. He would also write to the companies and say that it was his form of pornography. Ew. He tried to appeal his sentencing, but I mean, it wasn't working. They weren't buying it. In 1995, the parole board told him that he would never be released from jail. Thank God. On March 28th, 2006, Jerry died in jail from liver cancer. And at this time, he was the longest incarcerated inmate in the Oregon Department of Corrections. He was in there for 37 years, which to me is not long enough. I mean, whatever, he died. I don't really care that he died. Like, whatever, lock up or die. Either way, you're not in the world cutting off women's feet. But either way, he's dead. He's never getting out. He's never coming back. So it's fine. But that, my friends, is the story of Jerry Brudos, the foot fetish killer. What do you guys think about this story? It's a little freaking weird, right? Like, I understand people have their fetishes. Do your thing, whatever makes you happy. But don't get violent with it. Like, not cutting off people's feet and killing people. Like, that's crazy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd really love to hear your opinions. Also, if you're brave enough, drop your fetishes in my comments down below because I want to know your fetishes. I won't judge. Not going to judge you. But anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you like this sort of stuff. I'm here every Friday now, so you can look forward to that. And don't forget to follow me on all my socials. I will try and put them in here. I always have a hard time doing it, but if not, I will put them in the description box down below. And other than that, I have nothing else to say except I love you guys, and I will see you in the next haunted story. Bye!